Hello everybody and welcome back. In the previous video, we had left our chat page in a state where we had the top bar completed for it. And now in this video, before we can begin adding any more UI elements to our actual chat page, we need to have a medium of accessing the data required to build those UI components. For now, our chat page does not have that kind of a thing associated with it. So in this video, we're going to be laying down the bare bone structures for our chat page provider, which is going to be a utility class, which is going to extend upon a change notifier and is going to provide us a medium for getting data so that we can populate our chat page. Apart from that, the file is also going to be responsible for handling the business logic associated with sending messages, as well as the whole kind of state management of the chat page. So with that said, let's get into the video and let's see how we're going to be doing it. So the concept is going to be very similar to what we did for our provider, for our chats page provider, where in my providers folder/directory, I'm going to create a new file, and this time I'm going to call it chat_page_provider . With this done, I'll open the file up, and now we're ready to start adding some stuff to it. So firstly, I'm going to import the Dart async module because we are going to have some async functionality in this file. I'm going to also import some packages that we require. So the packages we require are going to be the file picker package, because sending a message, we might send a media passage. Also the material package, just because we're going to be using a change notifier. I'm going to also be importing the get_it package. We'll require that to access our services. And then I'm also going to import our keyboard visibility package, which is going to allow us to listen for keyboard events on our device and do appropriate actions when something like that happens. Then I'm going to import the services that I require. This is going to be one of those few files that will require all of the services that we have. So we are going to import firstly our database service. Then we're also going to be importing our actual service for our cloud storage. So cloud storage service. We are also going to be importing our media service. So do that quick. And with that, I'm also going to be importing our actual navigation service. And that's pretty much it. With this done, we are going to now add the provider section to this file, and the provider that we require is going to be our authentication provider. So it's going to be // and from there providers and then authentication provider. And finally, the last one that we need is going to be models, and the model that we're going to be importing is going to be our chat model. So models, and then from there our chat message model, not chat model. With this done, I'm going to actually create the class, and I'll call this our chat page provider, and I'm going to say that it extends a change notifier. Now I'm going to define some properties that our class is going to have. First, I'm going to define a late database service variable, call it _db, that'll hold a reference to our database service. Similar to this, I'll have also cloud storage service, and it'll handle a reference, or it'll contain a reference to our cloud storage. I'm also going to have media service, and then appropriately name that variable as wealth_media, and then another late variable of type navigation service, and I'm going to call this _navigation. With this done, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to then create two more variables which are not going to be late. One is going to be of type authentication provider, and I'll call this auth. And then another one is going to be a scroll controller. And then I'm going to call this _messages list view controller. And what I'm going to do after this is that I'm going to add a string variable, which I'm going to say is the chat ID. So the ID of the chat, for which we need to kind of create this chat provider, and also a list of chat messages. So these are the messages that are part of the chat. So I'll just do list of chat message, and then add a question mark because there might be no messages. And then I'm going to call it messages. With this, I'm also going to create 2 or 3 more variables, I believe. One is going to be called late stream subscription, and this is going to be _messages subscription. Or you know what, we can remove these and we can add them later on as intended. So with all of this stuff done, the next thing that I'm going to do is that I am going to add this final string optional to my actual chat page provider, and I'll call this _message. And this is the variable which is going to hold the the value of whatever actual message that we're typing. And I'm going to then create a helper method for this, which is going to allow us to access the value of this private variable. And I'll call this string get message. So this is just a getter function. And here I'm going to return message with an underscore at the, or exclamation mark at the end. And it's saying that I can remove it because it'll have no effect. So I'll do that and do command save. So now with this done, the next thing that we have to do is that we need to create the actual constructor for our class, because we're getting some errors for some actual variables that haven't been marked as late and haven't been marked as optionals, but require to be initialized. So I'm going to create the constructor for this class. I'll call this chat page provider. And then with this, I'm going to add some positional arguments first. So the first of it, positional argument, is going to be the chat ID that will get passed in. Then the other positional argument is going to be the authentication provider. And then the final one is going to be our actual messages list view controller. And with this, I'm going to open up the actual constructor function. So inside of the constructor function, we need to do some things. The first is that we need to actually get access to our services and assign them to the appropriate variables. So firstly, let's just do the database service. So get it instance get. And with this, I'm going to type the type. So it's going to be database service and then add the parentheses. Similar to this, I'll do the same thing for my storage media. So I'll just copy and paste that in. And then I'm going to do the same thing for my navigation, but I'll write this again just so it doesn't confuse you guys that I'm going too fast. And then I'm going to say that get, and this time we're going to get navigation service and add parentheses 2 and do command save. So with all of the services on board, the next thing that I'm going to do is that I am going to move on to our dispose function. So we are going to have a dispose function, and the dispose function is going to be responsible for disposing some streams that we're listening to. For now, we do not have any streams set up, so I'll just keep it there, but later on we'll use it to actually dispose of the streams that we're listening to. Now that this is done, the next thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to add 2 convenience methods, or just 1 convenience method for now, to our chat page provider. And that's going to be a function that is going to allow us to navigate back from our chat page. So I'm going to add a function. I'll call this void and then go back. And then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to open the function definition, Alt-Shift-F, just to reformat the code. And I'm going to say that I'm going to access my navigation, and I'm going to call the go back function on it and do command save. With this done, I'm just going to restart our application to make sure that nothing's broken. And then I can go back to my chat page provider and I can try to implement our chat page provider with our chat page. So inside of my chat page.dart file, I'm going to firstly make sure that I import the appropriate provider file. So it's going to be /providers. And then from there, I'm going to access our chat page provider. With the chat page provider file actually imported, I'm going to go down and I'm going to actually create the variable which will store a reference to our chat page. So I'm going to say that it's going to be our chat page provider, and I'm going to call this our page provider and add a semicolon. With that defined, I'll do command save, and I'll come down to where we have our build function. And from there, I'll move on to our build UI function. Inside of my build UI function, I'm going to take the scaffold and I'm going to copy it like this, and I'm going to remove it for now. And then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to add a builder function. And the builder function is going to, as we expect, take a builder function in it, which gets passed in a context to it, and then the function should return a widget. So I'm going to, inside of here, return the same scaffold that we had just copied. And with this, I'll add a comma here, do Alt-Shift-F, command save. But do not restart the application right now, because we need to still do some other things. So the first thing that we need to do is that we need to wrap our build UI inside of a multi-provider so that the widget tree underneath of the actual multi-provider has access to the appropriate providers that we need. So to do that, I'll copy this build UI function, I'll remove it, and then I'll say that instead of returning the build UI function, I'll return a multi-provider. Then the multi-provider requires a list of providers. In this case, we're just going to have 1. And which one are we going to have? Well, we're going to create a new change notifier provider. So I'm going to say we're going to create a new change notifier provider. And this is going to be of type, so I'll add these 2 angle brackets here, and I'm going to say chat page provider. And then the create function is going to take in an underscore because I just do not care about whatever gets passed to me. And from there, I'll say that I'm going to return a new instance of our chat page provider. With this, it requires us to pass some values to it. So what I'm going to pass for the chat ID is going to be this.widget.chat and then .uid. And then the appropriate _auth and _message list view controller variables are already being passed to it. And I'll do Alt-Shift-F, do a comma here as well, and do Command save. So now that our multi-provider actually wraps our build function, the next thing that I need to do is that I need to define the build function, not the builder, sorry, build function. And I do not know why it's not allowing me to do that. Oh, it's not the build, sorry, it's the child. And the child is going to be build UI, and do Command save. And the final and last step for us to actually get access to our chat page provider is that inside of our builder function, inside here on the first line, before we return anything, I'm going to set the page provider to be equal to _context.watch, and then I'm going to watch what. So I'm going to add the parentheses first, and then I'll add the angle brackets here. And I'm going to say that I'm going to watch chat page provider. With this, I'll do Command save, and I'll restart my application. And then what I'm going to do is that once my application is restarted, I'll click on one of the chats. And as you can see, it gives me an error saying that the late error _auth field has not been initialized. So let's just take a look at this and let's see what the problem is. So I'm going to pause the video here and I'll resume it once I know what the problem with the auth field is. Hello everybody and welcome back. So the problem that we had in the previous error was that we had not defined a value for our authentication provider and it was null. So what I'm going to do is that inside of my build function, after our device width, I'm going to add another line where I'm going to say that our auth provider is going to be equal to, and then I'll do provider.auth. And then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to access my authentication provider. And from there, I'm going to pass in the context to the function call and then do the semicolon at the end and do Alt-Shift-F Command save and restart my application again. And hopefully this time there shouldn't be an error. So I'm going to wait for the application to do a hot restart, which I think it's not going to do since it just got stuck, but I'm going to resume the video once the application is launched again. Hello everybody and welcome back. So now with that issue taken care of, if I click on another chat and go to our chat page, it's going to give me another error, which is going to be that the messages list view controller has not been initialized. And the error with this is pretty much the same as well. It's just that we need to initialize our messages list view controller. So if I go to our chat page and then I go to my chat page state class, what I'm going to do inside of here is that I'm going to create an init state method. So above my override function for my build, I'm going to create another init state method. And inside of this init state method, I'm going to call the super classes init state first. And after that, what I'm going to do is that I'll do two things that need to be done. So firstly, I'll take the message form state and I'll set that to be global key and then of type form state and initialize that. And with this, the next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to do messages list view controller and I'll set that to be a scroll controller. And add the semicolon, do Command save, and then start the application, start it again, restart by performing a hot reload. And now if I click on a chat, there shouldn't be any more errors and all of the things should be defined. So with that, I'm going to end this video here and I'll see you guys in the next video where we'll kind of add some more functions to our chat page provider. And in some of the subsequent videos, most of our effort is going to be towards developing the chat page provider before we come back to actually integrate everything back with our chat page. So with that, thank you for watching and I'll catch you guys in the next video.